I wanted to remind you, if you have not yet signed up for the free introductory coaching call, head over to unashamedlyyou.com, select the coaching tab, and schedule your first session for completely free. These coaching sessions are for anyone that is either wanting to start something and you're not sure exactly what it looks like, or if you've started something but you're feeling stuck and you need help restarting those ideas and dreaming big again. I cannot wait to help you start living out your dreams and fulfilling that calling that you are feeling. Let's continue to make this the year you live in faith over fear. Hello and welcome to the Unashamedly You podcast, a space to enlighten, encourage, and empower you to go out and unashamedly be who God is calling you to be. I am your host, Jamie Herndon. I pray you hear less of me and more of Him as you listen to today's episode. Let's grow together. Today we have on a young lady that I have followed on social for a while. She always has adorable hairstyles and it is extremely long like mine. So I'm even more intrigued with how she can always have it looking so fabulous. She's an apostolic influencer. And I'm going to be honest, this is one thing I personally am very passionate about because I see the need and I love what she is doing. I'm thrilled that she is on here today sharing her story with all of us. Khristian Sincell, welcome to the Unashamedly You podcast. Take a moment to introduce yourself to us.
Hello, thank you for having me. I am so honored to be here right now. My name is Khristian Sincell. I am 20 years old. I was born and raised in eastern Kentucky, but have moved to West Virginia within the last few years. I just finished my first year of nursing school, and I only have one more to go. I sing in my church and on my district's praise team, and I basically try to do as much as I can possibly for the Lord. I live at home with my parents and brother, who is in nursing school with me, and I am the youngest of 3 kids.
Awesome. So you are currently a young, successful influencer on social media. I know that's something that a lot of people don't realize can bring in an income and so many amazing opportunities, which is actually pretty mind blowing whenever you do find out and you do realize all those things. But can you share a little with us how you got started doing this and why?
Well, I never really intended to be an influencer, as crazy as that sounds. My mom would always post pictures of me on her Instagram account, and I've always had really long hair. Me and my sisters both did. But different boutiques would message my mom and ask if I wanted to take some pictures for them in their clothes. My mom would always decline because she was afraid of the internet and didn't want to put me out there for my safety. But one lady in particular had contacted my mom twice, several months apart, and my mom declined again. But one day we were at church in revival services, and the evangelist had called me up to the front and told me that the Lord was about to bring attention to my life and not to be afraid of it. When the evangelist told me about the attention coming to my life and not to be afraid of it, he was also telling me that what I was going through at that time, it was going to help me in my ministry. And later on, I realized that ministry being nursing. Everything that I was going through some health problems. I was getting ready to have a heart surgery, and he was just telling me that, when you get through this, you're going to meet somebody down the road, and you're going to help them realize that they're going to be able to get through it. After service, he came back and he told my parents, and my mom knew what he was talking about. And the same boutique owner had messaged her a third time and said that the Lord kept drawing her back to me. And this time my mom agreed, and I did some photos for them, and my Instagram just grew from there. I never intended this. If the Lord hadn't literally spoke to my parents and I, saying that this was setting the foundation for my life, I probably would not be doing it. So that's kind of the backstory.
How old were you when that happened?
I was, I believe, like 14 or 15.
Wow. So did you have your own account then?
Yeah, my account's always been Christian Girl, but at that time I probably had about like 500 followers, and most of it was just people I knew.
Which I do feel like in the past 6 years, social media has grown even more. Like sometimes I go back and I'm like, man, I really miss the algorithm and the posting and the way social media was then. But then I go back and look at my posts and I'm like, I am so embarrassed that I even posted this or thought this was Instagram worthy, is what we call it now.
Oh, I have those posts. Most of mine were like dress up days at school. One of my mom's favorite pictures of me is whenever I was in middle school, and it was the decade day for the Spirit Week. And I'm dressed up as like a little hippie, and my little ponytails are hanging like down past my knees, throwing up the peace sign.
That's hilarious. So you were pretty young whenever all this started. And let's talk about something really fast. You had said, your mom was scared of the internet, scared of the people on the internet. There can be a lot of sharks, as people like to call them, on the internet, which if you are listening and you do not know that term, it just means that there are people, they make fake accounts just to be mean and leave rude and hurtful comments. And this is a real issue. And I see it happening to people that are apostolic, and for them showing up online, for them dressing the way they dress and looking the way that they look. How do you deal with that?
Well, when it comes to online sharks, I always look at it like there will be people who are going to be kind and they're going to lift you up. So it's only logical to think that there are going to be people who are going to say rude things and they're going to try and tear you down. But the key is to realize that those mean and hurtful things aren't true. It's where you really have to believe in what God says about you. And if you don't, you can get pretty hurt by what people say. But honestly, my mom and I, we will read them and laugh. And people look at me like I'm crazy when I say that, but I think it's pretty funny. And if you're not strong in God, social media can really bring you down. You just have to look at it lightheartedly.
That is so true. You definitely have to laugh, because if you're taking all those comments to heart, social media is not the place for you. But it is kind of scary and it is a real issue. So, did you have any fears whenever you got started, and how did you overcome them?
Well, when I got started, my mom always told me, is this for God? So you can't really worry about stuff. If it's God's will, it's gonna succeed. But most of my fears were really just the internet itself, because the world is not a safe place. And I am as country as it gets, and I worry all the time about my accent and how people react to it. Some people love it, and some people don't, and they sure don't care to let you know. It's really a big step for me to be doing this interview because I'm afraid people won't understand me. And usually, when that happens, people look at me like I'm speaking a foreign language.
Well, I'll be honest with you. The Southern accent, Southern dialect, a lot of people, they either love it or they can't understand it. I've also had to overcome some of those things because I'll listen to myself. I'm like, I sound like straight buttermilk. Like, especially with the allergy season in Arkansas going on right now. And I listen back to myself. I'm like, I cannot help it. I've taken all the Sudafed and Benadryl and everything else I can take, trying to sound clear and not so nasally. But here we are. And I guess they can either listen to us or not. Another thing that I want to chat about is having to start at 0 followers. I think that this is something that I personally have seen a lot of people struggling with that, and I totally get it. Starting a new account, which you were younger, like you said, whenever you got started. But no matter where we are in our follower account, especially if you have an influencing account or you're trying to sell something, and the more followers, it equals more money. And you want that. And it also correlates with success and having a successful account. So you see, everybody wants to get started with, they want to have 10,000 plus on their following. And if you're wanting to show up online, you want that number. But I truly feel like that it's one of the largest mind traps of social media.
I normally see this as being relatable and having a relationship with people. If you want likes and comments, then you have to do the same. You have to go and like and comment on other people's stuff. Don't be someone who will follow people and then after you get accepted, you unfollow them because people won't trust you if you do that. It's a two-way street. You want to be able to relate to your followers and see what they're doing, but how can you do that if you don't even care enough to follow them? So you just got to be friendly online.
That is very true because whenever you're growing a community and what you're wanting to grow and you're wanting likes and comments. So you've got to be friendly and go and like and comment as well. But maybe talk to someone that is just getting started. They're just starting that account. They're at 0 followers, but they feel like they have something to share and they're allowing that to hold them back.
My advice would be to just, you have to make a start somewhere. And the best way to do that is don't pretend to be something you're not. Be unashamedly you. Just show you're perfect just the way God made you, and people are going to love that. Like, my mom never told me to be something that I'm not, and not everything you see on Instagram is real. I've realized I try to be as real as I possibly can, but it's nice whenever you show people that they're not alone when they're doing something. Like, I'm going through this too, you know?
That's such good advice because I think a lot of times we want to show up and there's more people starting out, with a small following or they have a small following and they're starting out doing that than there are the successful people. Let's just be for real. There's way more of those accounts that have under 10,000 than have over it. You know, you're following and you're getting inspiration from those people. And that is such a great thing and you need to do that. I follow the people that I want my account to be like and that I want, that I want the inspiration from. But at the same time, realizing that whatever God has placed on your heart and your mind to do, that you need to do that and doing it unashamedly, like you said. That was so good. So you mentioned you are also a nurse. Share a little bit about that journey with us.
Well, I'm not a nurse just yet. I just finished my first year and I still have one more to go. But I've been working in the nursing industry as a nursing assistant for almost 2 years now. I've always wanted to be a nurse, but what I think really sparked my passion was when my sister and brother had a love for it. I guess I caught on from them. I actually work on the same nursing unit as my brother, and we're both in school together. I can honestly say that nursing is my calling. I love it, and I hope I can inspire other girls to go and do something for God in their workplace. I know some people are called to be in the mission field in other countries, but some of us are also called to be a missionary to our high schools and our colleges. And when we graduate and we get that degree, we're called to be the missionary to our workplace. Honestly, working in the hospital is one of the most humbling things anybody could do. You see people at their saddest and their loneliest and really just at their lowest point in their life. And sometimes you've just got to be there to not only meet their physical needs, but sometimes you have to be there to make them laugh or just to hold their hand when they're getting bad news. I've had to do both of those a lot. And it's a great ministry for me. When the evangelist told me about the attention coming to my life and not to be afraid of it, he was also telling me that what I was going through at that time, it was going to help me in my ministry. And later on, I realized that ministry being nursing, everything that I was going through some health problems. I was getting ready to have a heart surgery. And he was just telling me that, when you get through this, you're going to meet somebody down the road and you're going to help them realize that they're going to be able to get through it.
God is absolutely amazing. I just love our elementary principal at Calvary Academy. Her name is Sister Candy Holmes. And one thing that she always says, and I don't know that I've really heard too many people say this, but she always says, God is so cool. And whenever you just told that
Yes.
story, that reminded me of that. It's like, God is so cool. Like just the way that He speaks into our life and works things. And then you don't even see it then. Like you said, you were not even showing up on social media yet. You didn't even really know, you didn't have anything that you have going on now, and then you weren't in school for nursing, and the way that all that spoke into your life. And then as you get older, getting to see the hand of God working everything out that He had spoke to you. So just God is so cool. That's an amazing story. My sister is a nurse, and that was not my calling, but I definitely see that it was hers. And I have so much respect for all of you that that is your calling because it is a beautiful thing. And whenever you're the one that's in that bed, it makes all the difference in the world who is in that room with you. So you are young, you have a lot going on. What is something that you would tell a peer, maybe even someone listening? They're wanting to go after things, but they're allowing age or marriage, not having a husband or having kids, just life circumstances in general to hold them back from going after something.
I feel like we're all waiting on something. I'll kind of relate this to myself. For me, I'm not married, and while I'm waiting for God to fulfill all that, I'm going to work hard and live my life the best that I can for God until He fulfills those things. Just because you're waiting on God doesn't mean you should sit around and do nothing. Go get that career. I think marriage and family is a wonderful thing, but you can still be accomplished without being married or with a family. And plus, it just makes the waiting easier. If we just think about whatever we're waiting on all the time, then we'll grab the first thing that comes to us without thinking, is this really what God intends for us? Or is it just something meant to hold us back? And then it can really throw you off the track that you're on and take you places that you really don't want to go. And that's not what we want. If we wait, we'll have the beautiful things God intends for us. And even right now, I feel like a lot of the influencers my age are like getting engaged and getting married. And that hasn't happened for me yet. Maybe it's just not my time, but I'm making up for it and I'm going to go ahead and get my degree.
I love the part that you said we're all waiting on something because that is so, so true. I see all the time with all of us. Like you said, you can relate this to yourself. I can relate this to myself and to every person that I have coached in business or, friends. We're literally all waiting on something, which I feel like is a good thing because people that are just completely satisfied sitting down, you're either throwing in the towel or you're striving for something. I don't think there's any other option, right? So, whenever you are striving for something, but a lot of times they'll allow that one thing that they're striving for. And, a lot of times we'll allow that one thing that we're striving for and that one goal, that one really big wish or really big dream that we have in life to hold us back from so many other opportunities and so many other things that God is trying to give us and allow us to have that will also fulfill us.
I have always been one that whenever I'm waiting on something, my mom raised me to just pray about it. Like, pray, read your Bible, fast. Don't let all this waiting be for nothing. And even times I've had where I would fast and I would have to realize, like, I'm not fasting for God to change his mind and be like, okay, I'm going to give you this because you're doing this. I'm fasting so that I can see what God's trying to do. Like, this is why he's doing this. This is what the purpose of this is. And it might look scary from my point of view, but it's not the grand plan.
You are only 20 years old, but that was some very, very wise words. If you were listening to this, then hopefully you jotted that down. But don't let the waiting be for nothing. That's powerful because a lot of times we are waiting and you can be grumbling, you can be complaining, you can be upset, you can be depressed, you can be sitting down, you can be sitting by, but don't allow it to be for nothing. Do something in the waiting, go after something. And like you said, praying and fasting. And I also love that you said that you are fasting to see what God is trying to do, not to change the mind of the Lord. Because there's many times that we will fast for something and it's like, I'm fasting so that God will do this instead of I am fasting so that I can get in the mind and the will of the Lord.
And sometimes you just gotta pray, God, help me to be patient. Because that's something I've had to learn a lot. Like, this isn't happening now, and I don't understand why, but God, help me to be content and help me to be patient. Because I know it's going to work out for my good in the end. It's not the end if it isn't good, and He never has a bad plan for any of His kids. He wants you to be happy, He wants to give you the desires of your heart.
So true. I love that. So what is one of the most influential pieces of advice that you feel like that you have gotten and that has helped you?
Okay. So, social media is not real. You see what others post and have to take things lightheartedly. When times come and I feel discouraged and I want to give up, I realize that this is not about me. It's about God. And although I have a pretty dress on or I'm showing a cute new hairstyle, I always want to talk about God. I want the first thing that people think when my name is brought up to be, oh, I know who you're talking about. She's a God girl. I have seen so many start out this way, and then you watch them completely veer off that path. And instead of judging them, you just feel sorry for them. And you develop a burden for them because you easily start heading down a different path just for likes and follows. And you can kind of tell people's spiritual state from their posts. It's almost like a conversation. You can tell if someone's happy or sad or upset, and you can't be judgmental towards them. You should pray for them. I hope people are like that towards me. And sometimes we will get called out on a post, and people will be like, you're apostolic, but you're wearing this, and you're saying this. And we take that as hate, but it's really like a wake up call. It's time to reflect. Is what they're saying true? Another piece of advice is not everybody is going to support what you're doing. And not everyone is going to think you're wonderful because God has opened this door for you and maybe not for them. Not everyone in your district is going to support you, and not even everybody in your church sometimes is going to support you. Some of my biggest supporters are people that I've never met. They'll like or they'll comment on my posts, and some will even like message me to say something encouraging. Like last Monday, I had a boutique just randomly message me, and they were like, I hope you had a wonderful day. God laid you on my heart, and that touches me. Like, I'm praying for you. And a lot of the boutiques that I've worked with, they've become like close friends, and we'll talk on a weekly basis, and I really appreciate them. So the thing to tell somebody would be keep your head up and don't let Instagram and all those harsh things that happen on Instagram keep you down. Because if it's God's will, it's going to succeed.
Not everything on Instagram is real is so true and such a very good piece of advice to take in. But I love that you brought up the part about you can tell someone's spiritual state by their post. This is such a true statement. And, you know, some of the times we'll jump on a bandwagon with others. So our pastor calls them, and our bishop, they'll call them the keyboard warriors, where you just get on there and they said this and you're going to just fire back. And I'm telling you, it is hard not to, especially when they're attacking. Like, I don't really care about so many things that people attack. It really doesn't bother me at all. Opinions, whatever. But like, if my pastor or my church is being attacked, I really want to be a keyboard warrior. I really want to be a keyboard thrower and throw it out. I'm like warrior just with words on here, whatever. I'm like trying to meet up with them. But no, for real. And you just, so many times you just have to like shut that down and not go after that. But you can tell their spiritual state by their post. Everybody that is posting on social media, they are not in the best mindset and best frame. Don't argue or agree, either one. That's some good advice right there. Private message them like praying for you, we love you, whatever. But to get on there and, add any fuel to that fire is just, it's not the place.
And even if you say you did respond to them, I normally don't care when people say stuff about me because I think it's kind of funny. But there was a post and people were like saying things about God. That made me want to be a keyboard warrior. But there is a loving way to respond to somebody, because even then you got to think, well, they're not in church and they don't know how I know. And so you still got to be a witness even the way you respond. So even if it takes a minute to think of what to say.
Yes, walk away and you can always come back and respond. Or I am really good about responding in like my notes on my phone and just deleting it and moving on. And I feel like I got it off my chest. So even if you have to respond in your notes. Another thing that you had said and brought up was about an encouraging word and someone sending that encouraging word to you and how much that meant. We never know what an encouraging word means. If someone is doing something well, if you're enjoying their post or what they're doing on social media, if you're enjoying their podcast that they are doing, if you are enjoying anything that people do, if you just see that they're just being an incredible mom or a good friend or in any way at all, just bringing that encouraging word, you honestly never know what it means. I don't really feel like a lot of times that people that we personally know don't want to give an encouraging word. I just think that maybe sometimes people that we personally know, because think about ourselves, personally know and you're around them and you just don't always think that they even need the encouragement, especially people that are stepping out. You're on social media, you have a successful social media account. I would feel like, you've got 25,000 plus followers on there, 30,000, and you're showing up, you're only 20 years old, you're in school for nursing, you've got it going on, and you're getting these accounts and you're getting all these collaborations, you're getting all these things. And so people don't even realize that you need an encouraging word. And I have said it so many times, the person doing something, they need more encouragement than you think they do.
And so I learned this not long ago, but there was a time I was at church and I felt that I needed to tell somebody, and it was encouraging. And I did it anyways because I was like, I would rather tell them than regret it. And I was speaking to my pastor's daughter about it, and she was just telling me, don't ever be afraid to give somebody an encouraging word, because would the enemy want you to give that person an encouraging word? So, don't be afraid that you're going to say something wrong, because even if it's encouraging, God wants you to encourage them. And doing Instagram while doing nursing school and trying to work, it has been kind of hard. My mom has kind of picked up a lot of the slack, like trying to help me find out what to wear with stuff or come up with ideas, because I do school. Well, I'm on break now. I just finished yesterday, but I do school like Monday through Thursday, and then I'll work on Friday. I usually have to take like Saturday and Sunday to do this stuff. But Instagram and Christian Girl would not be what it is if it wasn't for my mom.
That's amazing that you have your mom. This is something I would like to personally ask, and maybe some of the other moms would want to ask this as well. What is some of the ways that your mom has encouraged you to help you to be successful in this and to go after and to follow your dream? And what is a way that we as moms could be a help? Because, you want your kids to fly, you want them to go after dreams, you want them to dream big, you want to support them. But I mean, like for me, I have a 12-year-old as my oldest, and I've never done this before.
One of the biggest helps that my mom does for me is really that she prays for me. And I know my mom prays for me. And like before I have an exam or something and I'm panicking, she tells me, you've studied and I know you're smart enough to do this. And she'll remind me, God's got you here for a reason. None of us are promised to be here and stay here, but I know God's got you here for a reason, and this is your calling, this is your ministry. She encourages me. She tells me she knows that I can do it, and I would not be able to do any of it without her support. I don't even think I'd be able to lift my head if my mom weren't encouraging me.
That is so sweet. That makes us feel good as moms because, yes, encouragement and just knowing that your mom has your back, that's a good feeling.
When I was younger, if something would happen, if I got mad about it, my mom would have to calm me down. And then there were sometimes my mom was like, Khristian, you got to learn that, you can't let people treat you like this. Like, she encourages me to fight my own, battles sometimes because,
Sometimes she encourages the keyboard warrior to come out. And I'm just kidding.
she's like, do it in a loving way, but you got to know people can't treat you bad.
Us mama bears can come out too. I love all of that. It's so sweet. This has been so good. I am grateful that you agreed to come on here. Where can our listeners find you?
You can find me on Instagram as just Christian Girl. That's KHristiangirl.
Well, I am sure you are going to get some more followers. Those of you that do not follow Khristian, you need to definitely follow her. She's got a lot of cute outfit inspo. And like I said, her hair is super long. My hair is really long as well. And I see hers and it looks like so flowy and beautiful. And I'm like,
A
girl,
lot of treatments.
I have time for a bun, so I just always look at everybody else's, and I live through your gorgeous hairstyles. We always like to end on the Unashamedly You podcast asking, what is one last thing that you would want to leave to the Unashamedly You community?
What I want to leave with them is you are God's girl. So you need to look at yourself through God's eyes and not through the eyes of everybody else. God's eyes are going to lift you up. You're going to see your true worth. And you're going to have a good life if you do that.
You are God's girl. I love that. Look at yourself through his eyes, because that is so true. And that is such an encouraging inspiration to leave us here with the Unashamedly You community. We are grateful that you've been on this podcast, taking time to be on here with us today. And we look forward to seeing what all that you end up with and end up doing in the future. The future is so bright for you, Khristian, and we're just grateful to be a small part and to get to hear your story today.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode on the Unashamedly You podcast. And thank you so much to every one of you that have left us a review and shared us on social media. We are going to be doing our summer giveaway at the end of June for Unashamedly You merch. Make sure to continue sharing our podcast on your social media to be entered. Go be Unashamedly You.